Okay, I'm going to make this brief. It's a good thing I've done all of the work that I did on racism, on the levels of racism in society. There are things I've missed out which I know more about now, which I'll have to make more about, such as racism has got considerably worse in Britain. The levels we see of 70% are the result of changes from the wars by Tony Blair onwards. The influx of migrants who didn't really want to be here, increasing because of so many countries destabilized, increasing numbers of people coming into this country who were therefore obstreperous and problematic. So the levels of racism were really much lower when I was growing up. And before I was born, they were even lower, before Thatcher. But now Rishi Sunak has made a statement purely aimed at his white racist audience. And he said, we are going to get police to include whether you're brown or black in your as a reason to suspect you of rape and harassment. If you're brown and black, we're going to take it for granted you're more likely to be a rapist. He literally said that. The Daily Express published it like this. He's called it woke politics. To say that you can't discriminate against people on the basis of race is woke politics, and that actually rapists are black and Muslim more than they're white, which is factually false. Even the police have suffered too much at the hands of using such a stupid policy to agree with Sunak. So he's doing it entirely for his audience of voters, to try and beat Starmer. Now, I have this message for you, Sunak. It's about my life, right? And what I had to decide to do because of that racism. And you are putting all of the teenage black and Asian men in the same position that I was in. And it's a horrible feeling of being constantly treated as and suspected of being a stalker, a harasser, a rapist, a pedo, people call it, any number of things, right? And I have alopecia. I'm on the autism spectrum, which has made it a lot harder for me. Now, I can talk about this freely because I solved this problem. I have met American and Canadian women who showed me what it's like to meet someone who knows who I am, who understands me, and just can talk for hours and doesn't have any tropes in their head about me. Now, that's actually almost impossible in Britain. Even if I limit myself to non-white people, I'm a Muslim. So the tropes about me are at the peak. And long ago I gave up on that, and I don't find any British women attractive, and I enjoy my life. And I have this alternative of American women who are great. But most of these youngsters you're scaring the shit out of, Sunak, just to get votes from the white racists. These are 17 to 30-year-old black and Asian men who feel terrified that from the things you're saying, that every turn someone will falsely accuse them. They get locked up, they get harassed. They're the ones being harassed. And the thing is, Sonny Sunak, Rashi, as you're called by the Americans, Sanuk, they don't even remember your name, you prat. You are subjecting these people, these kids, to real torment and trauma. And the level of white racism among these women, right, you're basically just helping it grow. Now, it doesn't affect me because I am not personally in the slightest bit, and I've completely wrote them off once and for all, right? And like now, you sealed that. But the point is, all these millions of young British non-white men, right, you fill them with horror because of this. You're ruining their teenage years. And I know this, and I've seen it happen. And why? So that your little Tory party can win more votes off the racist than Starmer does, who's waving his big NATO dick at them. So, to the youngsters, I want to tell you this. First of all, the cops are not going to arrest you, right? Because you're not rapists. And they're sick of people falsely accusing it. The amount of cost to the police of having to follow up white racists claiming every brown man is a rapist has become very high for the police. So you're not going to be harassed by the police. These comments are made by Sunak entirely to appease his white racist audience. But you will not find white women who are, what I mean is you still are going to experience that the women you love and the women you fancy will have a high level of racism, which is growing. So I suggest you do what I've done, but 20 years earlier than me, and give up on British women. They're a waste of time. There are so many women in other parts of the world coming and going from here. Americans from the East Coast, Canadians, Pacific rebels, real dissenters from China. Those are amazing women. Those are for you. Leave the racist island to itself. And as for Sunak, listen, boy, if you want to publish shit like that, every time you make one statement like that, I'll publish 100 showing what a racist piece of shit you are, old Rashi boy. Rashmeister. Have you got any rash cream, Rashi? So Norman Finkelstein is one of the most brilliant Israelis ever. And when he uses the term woke, I'm willing to forgive it because he's a nerd. But George Galloway, it's an emotionally potent oversimplification. And when you used it about one or two people, you were right that they were idiots. But using a term woke gives free rein to anybody to just boil down whatever they want, generalize about whoever they want with a monosyllable which means very little. Somebody like you, Mr. Galloway, should know better than that. You are Prime Minister material. For fuck's sake, become worthy of that post, you stupid fart. So let's conclude this little video. So, as I was saying about, we're not talking about any American woman is somehow not racist, but the problem we face in Britain is one where there's a kind of blanket racism fed by these tropes which people like Sunak are pumping up higher, so that young black and Asian men will increasingly be called pedos and rapists by any and every fucking ignorant fuck who wants to, from their nasty, like my friend Matthew Roth would say, oh, like he was going through a list of why everyone at school wouldn't get girlfriends, only him. And for me, took 5 seconds, it was just, oh, Shams is a dirty packy. And that was it, and he went on from there, you know? And so it's not just fed by your school, it's not just your school friends and your competition to get the girl, it's the right-wing nuts, knob jobs who spend all their time wanting to just say, fuck migrants, fuck migrants. And so, you get all that. And so, the truth, I'm afraid, young Asian and black men in Britain should understand is that you're talking about an 80% chance that whatever woman you fall for, whatever colour she is, if she's British, she's a racist cock, right? She's a penis. Fuck her. And I'm just telling you that if you meet East Coast American women, Canadian American women, who are actual rebels against the Democrats, against the Republicans, right? They will love you. You will have such a good time with them. I always do. There was Renee, a philosopher and dance teacher. But what the Lord provided just before I got this new thing from Sunak saying, oh, black and brown men are rapists. You must suspect them on the basis of their ethnic identity. And if you say no, you're woke. And just before he did that, I just met for the first time in ages another such American woman. She's a banker, Bostonian, and like it was like a breath of fresh air talking to her. Like what I find in Britain is, if I'm talking to people, whoever they are, right, after a little while, they're like, why am I tolerating this ceaselessly prattling arsehole? Like, they are so patronizing. Whereas when I meet the kind of American woman I'm talking about, it's like her only thought is, like, shit, I have to go, but I just want to stay here talking for 10 hours. And sometimes they do. And we drink and we smoke and we laugh and we spend hours. But the point is that you, young black and Asian Britain, just trust me, just do it, right? Just forget British women, no matter who they are, what their colour, no matter how convincing they may start to be, right? There is a baseline of racism which is so high already, and people like Rashi Sunak are pumping that baseline higher. So, and you'll have such a good time. Until I started hanging out with such women, as I mentioned, right? I had a miserable time in Britain, full of these racist female walking penises, right? Okay? Whereas, just the amazing experience of having real romance and two minds melding and anything that goes with it is something which it's not fair that these racist cunts deprive you of. And I'm just telling you, do it my way. If you just, you know, fuck within your colour or whatever it is, that's the opposite of it working out. It's just even worse. And, you know, Asian women who marry Asian men in a society where the Asian men can't get white women, right, are brutally feudal. So, yeah, you know what you got to do is do what I said. Follow the path of integration, of internationalism, and go find whatever colour from the Pacific, from the Atlantic, wherever. Find the rebels, the real rebels. Britain is a village. It has been completely lobotomized, right? You're young and you got hormones and you see an attractive girl, but let me tell you, most British women have shit for brains and are racist no matter what their colour, and they will be till they die. So forget about them. Their grandchildren will be worth knowing, not them. Go and find the women I mentioned. And Sunak, you're a fucking Tonka car, right? The Tories pull you back, press a button and off you go. Today it's brown and black men rape women. Fuck you, you little rapist. And one last thing, Rashi. When the racist you appease see me saying these things, they call me a lefty lovey because I look white. But if they knew I wasn't white, they would call me a rapist. What does that tell you about their way of making choices and what you're doing, Rishi Sunak, Rashmeister General, Rash Cream Chief? And one last thing for the assorted Asian and black young men who want to avoid being, and frankly, Asian and black women, they still have sex with you and they treat you well, but then later on you discover they're a bunch of racists and the way they treat you is fucked up. So I would look for the men in the same categories as I'm saying to these guys, right? Basically, as well as your North American rebels who are opposed to the Democrats and opposed to the Republicans and opposed to the far right, as well as them, you've got, and Canadians of the same ilk. Don't forget Canada is quite right-wing, so be careful there. Make sure you are meeting dissenters. Not, don't judge by an accent or a nationality. That's what your enemy does. That's what the people who abuse you do. But also, I would say Germany, in Europe, Germany is such a stronghold of men and women, white men and white women, who are very much the same as these Americans I've described. So, and like I said, there's the Pacific. There are people, because China is just another America, really. And so the people who are in that society who find it disgusting, they are the multicultural, international, sane people. And back to the point about, so George Galloway and Normie, good old Normie, and even Chris Williamson's out there, you use words like woke, and woke is being used, it's an emotionally potent oversimplification, and today, more than anything, it means if you say that a black or brown man is more likely to be a rapist, and someone says to you, no, they're not, that's racist, they'll say, oh, you're woke for calling me racist, because black and brown men are more likely to be a rapist. That is the line that Rishi Sunak just put out there today. He's such a fucking leashed slave of the fucking Biden, Trump, America, military, industrial, racist, white privilege complex, white skin privilege complex, that he actually made a generalization about himself, saying that he is more likely to be a rapist than Boris Johnson. And they are equally likely to be rapists. Whether or not we accept that these two public school exploiter fucks are actually more likely than everyone else to be rapists, which they clearly are. The point is that if you forget all that, they are equally likely to be rapists. There's no discrepancy because of your bloody skin color. And as for whether or not people like Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson are more likely to be rapists than, say, you or me, or Jeremy Corbyn, or Diane Abbott, or whoever, I think the answer to that is obvious. I don't need to say it. We all know the answer.